This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the AIPIS show for accredited income property investment specialists and those who aspire to be. If you're a real estate, mortgage, or financial professional, this is the place for you. We'll explore innovative investment analysis, sales, marketing, and income-generating strategies for the most historically proven wealth creator, income property. Learn from the experts as they show you how to build a better business and a better life.
It's my pleasure to welcome a returning guest back to the show. He's been on a couple of times, and that is my friend Jordan Goodman. He is known as America's Money Answers Man. Today, we are going to talk about something I think everybody will be interested in, and that is how to identify overpayments that you might be making on your impound or escrow accounts on your mortgages, overpayments on adjustable rate mortgages, and stuff like this, and maybe get some of that money back. Jordan, welcome back. How are you?
Great to be with you again, Jason.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. So before we dive into that topic, I just want to get your take on the economic pulse. Things have been booming, as we both knew they would if Trump was elected. Boy, that's like an understatement. I mean, we've had the most booming economy possibly ever. It's been truly amazing to watch. Interest rates are going up now. I think the Fed wants to get back at Trump or something. I don't know.
I think we'll normalize rates. They gave us too much candy for too long, and now they're taking it away, basically.
Yeah, but it's definitely cooling the high-end real estate market off, I'll tell you that much.
It is. Yeah. And I think real estate's definitely cooling off. Yeah. I mean, we have 30-year fixed-rate mortgages over 5% now. Mm-hmm. That's taking kind of the speculative bubble, and the anticipation is it's going to go higher. I mean, the long-term Treasury...
Well, this is the most transparent Fed of my adult life, for sure.
Right.
I mean, Powell has made it very clear. He doesn't talk in code like Greenspan did. Right. He just says, look, we're raising rates 5 times. Get ready.
That's right. Yeah. So that's has an impact. Yeah. So people buying homes now or anticipating buying homes, at a certain point you rush in because you want to get in before the rates go up. But now they've gone up to levels, and particularly with where home prices have gone, combination of higher prices
and higher rates,
higher interest rates means some people just aren't able, even if they're willing, are not able to buy homes. And I think that's going to continue. The price of homes is going up because of materials. I mean, the tariffs on lumber and steel and aluminum and copper and all the things that go into a home are raising the price of creating homes.
Let me tell you something. You may not know this. This is going to blow everybody's mind. When I read this the other day in a somewhat sophisticated financial report I was reading, boring stuff that most people don't like to read, but I really geek out on once in a while. In 6 years, Jordan and listeners, this is amazing. It's truly shocking. In 6 years, from 2012 to 2018, the price of a like-kind single-family home construction has increased by, wait for it, 31%. Yeah. 31% construction cost increase. That is crazy. Crazy.
And that's passed on to the buyer one way or the other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's a combination of labor, because labor is short in construction as well, and the materials and the buying the land. So you're right. So you add that, the higher price of the homes, on top of the higher mortgage rates, and I definitely think the housing market's going to slow down. And you say, now where I am in New York, it's really low. We've had sales in Westchester, where I am, sales are down about 25% for the first half of this year compared to last year because of the change in the tax law. That's on top of what we just talked about. Now that only $10,000 is deductible on both property taxes and state income taxes, in the places with high property taxes and high state income taxes, it's taken a real toll. And that's a long-term structural change as well. So we've had a great run, but I think it's definitely slowing down now.
Yeah, it is. And those high-end markets have been way overheated, way past the point of fundamentals, in cyclical markets like LA, New York, Boston, Seattle, South Florida. Well, really all of the West Coast, just the whole West Coast is like that. Those markets have been, they passed the point of fundamental value years ago, and finally they're cooling. But oddly, and listen, I hope I don't regret saying this, as I've said many times on the show, I am looking forward to a cool down. This kind of market is very hard to operate in. And, I've been doing this for like 1,730 weeks now. That's how long my career's been. I won't say it in years. You can figure it out. Divide by 52. Okay. Anyway, it's been a long time. And I'll tell you, every time we have one of these crazy markets, it's just very hard to operate. You can't do things. It's just too constricting. It's too crazy. Right. It's too psychotic. And so
it's risky too.
Yeah, it is risky. And I hope I don't regret saying this, but I'm really looking forward to a bit of a cooling down. Don't overdo it on the cooling down, but just give us a little bit and we'll take it.
Well, you're going to get the cooling down because if interest rates, if the Fed raises another time in 2018 and 3 or 4 times in 2019, that is definitely going to cool the housing market even more.
Yeah.
And get out a lot of the speculative excess. You've had all these fix and flippers who are kind of making money quickly. I think that'll really put the kibosh on them to some extent.
And that'll be a good thing because the market's just too nuts. But we're still waiting for it to trickle down to the low-end linear markets that our people like to invest in. The cheap properties, it's still nuts. It's still crazy. But I'm sure those will eventually cool. We just need a little time to see it happen. So,
the other change in the market is that all these institutional buyers that were buying entire neighborhoods to fill up a REIT,
they're cooling off too.
They're cooling off a lot. They're not buying entire neighborhoods anymore. So that was a new source of money that was all cash. They had raised money for a public REIT, and they had to go out and buy 100,000 houses or something. And they didn't worry about mortgage rates.
Yeah.
Those people are not on the market today than were 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. And now what we're going to see, folks, as I taught for 14 years now, what I call the 3 dimensions of real estate, the lower housing affordability, higher rates, that's a correlating indicator to rents. It puts upward pressure on rents because the renters can't move out of the renter pool now to buy, and fewer landlords are entering the market to increase supply of rentals. So when you have those 2 factors, the only thing that can happen is increase rents. We're going to see some upward pressure on rents, but it takes a little time. This doesn't happen right away.
As these mortgage rates go up, on the margin, people are saying, I can't or I'm not willing to buy a home, so I'm going to stay renting or maybe move to another place. And you're right, that's definitely putting upward pressure on rental rates.
Yeah, so the rental rates go up and the vacancy rates fall. And we've definitely been seeing that for quite a few years across the country. But I think the pressure is going to become even more intense on the renters. Okay, good. So good for investors. Jordan, talk to us about, are people overpaying their mortgages? Are they getting ripped off on their escrow accounts?
Yes, a lot. And they don't even know it's a problem in many cases. So let's start with the mortgages. So lots of people have adjustable rate mortgages. In recent years, more people have been doing adjustable when the rates were lower. Now maybe they're doing fixed more. But if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, it's typically tied to some kind of index. It could be the prime rate. It could be the national mortgage contract rate. It could be LIBOR. There's lots of different indexes it can be tied to. But you basically have to trust that the bank is doing the right thing when these rates are going up and down. And lately, as you know, they've been going up a lot. But there are people that look into these things and audit them and find that 40 to 50% of people with adjustable rate mortgages have it wrong. And the banks are overcharging them for what they're paying. And people don't have a clue there's a problem here. There's actually some people who do this for a living, and they have a website, verifymymortgage.com. And what they're going to do is get your original mortgage documents, see what your payment record has been, and then they know all the indexes and what should have happened and what the margin over the index is and what you should have been paying for all these years. And again, in 40 to 50% of the cases, they find that you've been paying too much. They then prepare a detailed letter to the bank saying, here's what you did charge, and here's what you paid, and here's what he should have paid. You should give him a refund of $8,422, whatever it may be, and here's where you should adjust the payment back down to. Now, this is not something the average person even knows is a problem, but it is, and you have to have the backing to make this happen. But there it is, and so there's a free website, verifymymortgage.com, that can help you save literally thousands of dollars, and in many cases get rebates of thousands of dollars.
Tell us how that works. I mean, verify your mortgage. What do you do? What does it do? I mean,
what they do, all you have to do is give them your original mortgage document, and then they see what the index was, what it's supposed to have been, and then you give them the list of payments, the amortization schedule of what you actually paid, and then they go back and look at what the payments should have been, because they know where the index has moved up and down. and what the spread was, and so they could see what actually should have happened.
Okay, so they're only auditing basically adjustable rate mortgages. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a fixed rate mortgage is not going to change. So
Sure.
but an adjustment.
But the fixed rate mortgage still has an escrow or an impound account possibly. So what about that part? Do they handle that too? Or is that
They do. That's a separate thing. That's correct.
Okay.
So that's what's called verifymyescrow.com. So at escrow, they're holding money aside for property taxes and property insurance. And again, both of them are kind of based on estimates. And in many, many cases, people are over withheld on escrow as well. Mm-hmm. So property taxes can go up. Sometimes you can challenge them and make them go down. But banks are typically too conservative. They're pulling aside too much for those property taxes. And sometimes lately we've had property going up, but if property goes down, the property taxes don't get adjusted down as they should. So there's a lot of mistakes in that whole area. And the same thing with insurance. Mm-hmm. Some people's insurance rates go up. Some people, it stays pretty much the same. And they're estimating increases in many cases. So it's the same deal. You go to the website, verifymyescrow.com.
Got it.
And they see what you've actually been escrowed. And in something like 40% of the cases there, they also will find, here's the amount that you should rebate to them, and here's the new escrow level you should have, because, again, it's something the average person is not really going to have a clue about. This money is being kept in that escrow account, earning nothing for you, but it's earning something for the bank. So they've got every incentive to over escrow you.
Right. I see some of your stuff on there. Do you have any financial interest or affiliation with these companies, or just know about them?
I know about them, and I think they're great. And I've interviewed the guy who runs those two is named David Ginsburg, and I've had him on my show.
Okay.
And, I think they do a good job for a lot of people.
Yeah, fantastic.
They have a third one, by the way, which is PMI, private mortgage insurance.
And they audit the PMI too.
And they audit the PMI as well. That's right. So the deal with PMI is you have to have at least 20% equity to get rid of PMI. PMI is insurance that you're paying to cover the...
Stands for private mortgage insurance.
Yeah. You're insuring the lender, not you, against your default.
Okay.
I hate paying premiums.
Someone else's insurance.
Someone else's insurance, exactly.
Well, that's the way it works, oddly, in real estate. It's a funny thing. It just grew up that way.
The thing is, in many cases, people have more than 20% equity.
Right.
And they don't know it. And therefore, they're paying these PMI payments, which can be hundreds of dollars a month, completely unnecessary.
Sure.
Completely.
Yeah. I know, it's weird.
Several ways that can happen. Say your value of your real estate's gone up a lot, which it has in many areas of the country. Say you did an addition or kind of improvement of some kind. That could add to your equity. Mm-hmm. And say you made extra principal payments or you paid down your mortgage a little bit faster. Those are three of the ways you can get equity and get over that 20%. And the private mortgage insurance company has no incentive whatsoever to ring a bell and say, you just made it over 20%. Let's drop your PMI. They don't do that. So it's the same website, verifymypmi.com. This David Ginsburg does all three.
Okay.
And
all right. Good.
You'd be surprised how much you could save on all three.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Anything else people should know about this? Just anything in general you want to say about it?
Well, I mean, most people don't even know it's a problem, Jason.
Right.
I'm solving a problem they don't even know they have in many cases. They always trust the bank. They're going to get the adjustable mortgage payments right. They're going to escrow correctly. And the moment I'm over 20%, they're going to drop the PMI. All three of those are not correct in many cases.
Yeah.
So it's worth it to audit these things. But you can't really do it yourself for the most part. That's why he kind of does it for you. And if you're not over withheld, then you at least have peace of mind. But in many cases, you are over withheld. And it can be a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good stuff. Jordan, anything else you want to tell us? I
actually have created a special landing page for your listeners so they can get some goodies, which is go.moneyanswers.com/creating wealth. And I've got some things there about how to pay your mortgage off faster. And I do a monthly newsletter, the Money Answers newsletter, and all kinds of good stuff there. So go and take my free stuff, I guess you might say.
Good stuff. Hey, Jordan, what do you think is going to happen with the stock market as interest rates go up? And there's kind of this concept in investing that money just flows to the better opportunity, of course. Well, rates are obviously going up on the real estate side. That affects the companies and their stock values too. Is there going to be some great next investment, or is it sort of like slow and steady wins the race, as I always believe?
Well, I think we've had a really great stock market for a long time, and the recent shakiness in the stock market is telling you that they think things are going to be slowing down and the earnings are not going to grow as fast as they have been growing. I mean, we had a huge surge in earnings in 2018, mostly because the tax cut, kind of a one-time event. Now, earnings will be growing, but maybe it's 7 or 8% next year as opposed to 25% this year. And when you have a higher interest rate, you discount the future cash flows at a lower level. So you might have lower earnings growth and discounted in a worse kind of way. That's a combination. On top of which, you've got all these things going on around the world, which are quite worrisome. The trade war with China being at the top of the list, which I don't personally think is going to get resolved. I think both sides are going to stick to their guns. And by the end of this year, we're going to have a full-out trade war, 25% tariffs on everything coming to the U.S. from China, and maybe 25% tariffs on everything U.S. sends to China.
Okay, so here's the $1 million question, though. Is that bad?
I think it's bad. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
These are the two largest economies in the world, and having more trade means more economic growth, both directly and then indirectly. All of the inputs to both China and the U.S. are slowing down.
Right.
Australia and Chile and all the places that feed those places are going to have less demand. You're already seeing it. Things are slowing down dramatically in China.
So is more trade more important than more jobs?
Well, I think more trade creates more jobs, ultimately. And
well, see, you sound like the classic libertarian, and I agree with all that philosophically. I just don't, and as I've said for many years, the problem is the U.S. economy and the U.S. company that is making the U.S. economy and the Chinese economy and the Chinese companies are not equally yoked. So you cannot have open border free trade without being equally yoked. In other words, Americans need to decide, do they want more jobs? Do they want these higher paying, I'll call it union scale, but not necessarily in a union, type of jobs that America prospered off of for decades post World War II, up until maybe the 70s-ish, give or take? Or do you want a bunch of cheap stuff at Walmart? I mean, make up your mind, folks. You got to make up your mind. And I say the jobs are more important than the cheap stuff.
What we're asking China for makes sense in kind of a logical way, but I don't think they can deliver. What we're asking China for are things I think they can't even deliver. For example, we're asking them to stop investing in their future. They have a program called China 2025, where they're investing in the biggest new technologies, robotics, cloud computing, driverless cars, artificial intelligence, all these kind of things. They want to be the leaders. And we're saying, don't do that. They're not going to stop investing in their future. That's one example. They have something called the One Belt, One Road initiative, where they're investing over $1 trillion in about 100 countries, doing all kinds of infrastructure projects. We're saying, don't do that. They're going to do that. They've made a long-term commitment to that. We're saying, don't subsidize your state-owned enterprises, your steel companies, your aluminum companies, because you're dumping steel. There are millions of jobs in that area. They're not going to stop doing that. I mean, maybe they could lower their tariff barriers a bit. We're asking them not to steal our technology and intellectual property. They don't even agree it's a problem, never mind wanting to stop it. So these are things which are kind of core to the way China sees its future, and we're asking them to drop all those things. So that's why I do not think there's going to be a compromise. So that's kind of on the financial end. And there's a psychological end as well, Jason, which is that they don't want to lose face. I've been to China. Maybe you've been to China as well. And it's very important for them to be seen to be strong and not to lose face. And we're asking them to kind of back down and lose face. And they're not going to do it.
Okay, so what's going to happen then?
So I think we're going to have a long-term trade war where starting in 2019, we will have 25% tariffs on everything coming into the U.S. from China, and they'll have tariffs on everything from the U.S. going into China, and that's going to
which is completely imbalanced. The current accounts balance is massively imbalanced there, so do we really care that much? I mean,
yes, we do. We care because we're going to lose export markets. It's hurting them a lot, and it's hurting us a lot, and it's going to hurt the world economy a lot. I'm agreeing with the problem that they're stealing our technology, all the things I just said. Yeah. I just don't think the solution is to cause a trade war where both sides lose and the entire world loses. The world is fragile enough as it is, and to have the two largest countries in the world going at each other like this, I just don't think it's going to be helpful.
Okay, but what is the solution? And, what we have to remember is that, Peter Schiff who's like wrong time after time after time.
Right.
But he sounds great. He's awesome to listen to, but he's just always wrong. Peter's been on the show before. Sorry, Peter. I love listening to you because you're really smart and insightful, but you just get it wrong so many times. I mean, 15 years ago, he was talking about the decoupling, as if China's going to produce their own giant middle class and they won't need the U.S. anymore. And that just has been so massively wrong.
Correct.
You know, the difference is the U.S. has its own consumer economy. Well, 72% of the economy, right? And so the U.S. can operate in a much more insular fashion. And China can't afford to do that. I mean, the U.S., I'm not saying it would be great for the U.S. either. I'm just saying the U.S. is much better positioned than China.
I agree. Yeah. But that's nice. But the specific companies and industries in the U.S. that are exporting China, agriculture being a big one, soybeans and apples and poultry and all kinds of things, there is not another market big enough to absorb what we produce. Okay, so the farmers are really getting hurt. That's an example. I'll give you another example. Boeing sells about 25% of its planes to China, and now they may start looking at Airbus. I mean, that's a huge employer directly in all the inputs into an airplane. So it's hurting actual Americans now who would have been benefiting by the exports to them. So I'm agreeing with you that there's a problem. In theory, the solution would be to get all of our allies together, Europe, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, all the Asian countries, have a coordinated approach, go through the World Trade Organization and get China to back down on some of these things. I mean, it hasn't worked. They are feeling very, very strong and they can withstand this pressure. I think this is one of the things that's bothering the stock market, is the feeling that world economic growth is going to be a lot slower because this trade war is going to have all kinds of worldwide implications.
Okay, good stuff. Jordan, give out your website.
Moneyanswers.com is my website. Always glad to get emails from your listeners. And again, the landing page for all the goodies is go.moneyanswers.com/creating wealth.
Jordan Goodman, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.